Welcome to Brussels for the second EBA Business Forum, sponsored by ACI Worldwide and hosted by the EBA and Finextra. Known worldwide as the centre of European politics, Brussels was the perfect backdrop for discussing the impact of SEPA regulation, the role of standards and the challenges of making real-time, pan-European payments in the run-up to EBA Day 2014. In this breakfast session, we were joined by a corporate treasurer to better understand servicing corporate needs and the importance of balancing investment between innovation and maintenance. We caught up with a few participants to get their insights on the morning. In this post-SEPA environment, how can banks leverage that environment to help their clients?
Well, I think we need to leverage the environment of SEPA, of course. We have invested massively, and it also sets a number of standards, so we clearly have a good basis to start. It's far to be fully standardized, so we have to take a number of steps within the banking community to make it a bit more standardized even in the next years. I think what we should do at this stage is really come back to the needs of the clients and not try to start from the solution space, but start from the client needs. And basically, of course, linking the solution space of what we have built with SEPA with the client needs. I think this is key to do that in this next step, because SEPA has been an answer to a regulatory push, and we need, I believe, to go for a much more proactive way of building our future, and especially with clients. Again, coming back to the real needs and instead of the solution space.
So Michel, would you say the banks are meeting your needs effectively, and if not, is there more that they could be doing?
What is always, of course, a continuous discussion with the bank is that, the banks, of course, are a service provider and they provide solutions. And what is always a challenge is to find a solution that suits all customers. And therefore, I think it's not possible to find a customer which is satisfied with everything, because it's really depending on a specific corporate or specific individual on their requirements. But by and large, I think that the products that banks offer actually are so scalable that indeed it is possible to a large extent to cover most customers. And it's then up to the banks and the service levels at the banks to actually then to find a solution for those customers if they are too important to them, how they can still work within that general infrastructure to build create a solution for a customer. And there you see a variety of banks. You see some banks actually they say this is a standard and this take it or leave it. And that's of course what we don't want as a corporate, because we always want to have some flexibility in that. And other banks go a bit further in that and actually are able to make almost like tailor-made solutions. So, and that's really then that really depends on the relationship you have with the bank, the credit relationship you have with that bank as well, how long you've been with that bank, etc. So it's very much, I don't think that just the payment space as such and the solutions that banks provide necessarily are commoditized. And I think the difference is really where the difference the bank can make is really in the service that they provide to their customers.
What do you think is holding back innovation? There was mention of this 80-20 rule with regards to budget spending.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think if you look at it from the bank's point of view, they've got multi systems all over the place. They have 40, 50 different payment systems feeding in. Well, actually, if you look at that and then you try and say, well, how does the mandate changes happen? How does the SEPA changes happen to all of those systems? Boy, that's a lot of work. I mean, that's really a science project for these guys. So what we're trying to do is to say, hey, look, if really that's about 85% of the budget just fixed on maintenance and make do, we need to change that to be on the innovation side. So we in ACI have spent the last 5, 6, 7 years trying to work through that exact problem. That's what UP is all about. It's trying to be able to wrap us some of those legacy systems, be able to get them to speak in a simple, streamlined way, therefore you can innovate on top, and turn the 80% to 20%, and the 80% now being spent on innovation and looking after the end customer.
Okay, so we were having our discussion earlier and you mentioned seeing things from your customer's point of view. Can you explain what you mean by that and what's the strategy behind it?
I think if you look at it from the point of view that it seems in this last little while, because of major changes, because of SEPA, because of regulators and what have you, the industry's been looking at itself and really spending a lot of time introspectively looking at what it needs to do for itself. But actually, if you look at it through your customer's eyes, what their needs are, whether it's on the retail side or on the transaction banking side, you can say, actually, it's clearly obvious what those guys want. And if we build our solutions against that type of viewpoint, then actually I think the banks are going to be very happy with what we have. And therefore, it's really crucial that we, ACI, do look at that through the lens of the end customer and build backwards.
What about today's discussion and today's debate here at this EBA Business Forum? How was that for you as a corporate?
It's somebody made a comment in the forum as well, and I think it's a very valid comment. Is actually most of these meetings take place between banks themselves, and actually they then think to find a standard which is suiting corporates the best. And I think it's a challenge also for the banks indeed to define that, because there's not one single corporate. Every corporate is different depending on how they are organized. And what I think has been good, and it's not because I was here, but I think it is good that also in forums like this, the voice of the customer and the corporate is heard. And that at least, although it's only just my company that I'm representing here, that at least the challenges that we are faced with from a day-to-day operational perspective, that banks listen to that and that banks try to translate that into a solution. And that's what I liked about this conversation, because actually I was actually sometimes surprised by how small you start with something like a day-to-day issue that I'm faced with, and that then how the interaction was with the banks on what kind of solutions they could or could not provide. And that's what I liked about the forum. So it's not only my contribution to it, I also got a lot from it back. So I liked the discussion a lot.